This is Locker Room Rewind. Brought to you by Chunky Nelms Insurance. Here's Ryan Reynolds and Jaydon Hart.
Hello and welcome everyone to Locker Room Rewind, brought to you by Chunky Nelms Insurance. Access to over 20 insurance companies to give you the best value. Get protected today at www.chunkynelms.com or by calling 325-223-0314. Again, that number 325-223-0314. If you live in San Angelo or the surrounding communities, you can visit the Chunky Nelms in person at 1121 South Abe Street. Get protected today. It's important, and so is high school football. Week 6 in the books for classes 4A through 1A. Week 2, if you're the 6A Central Bobcats, it's Saturday, October 3rd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ryan Reynolds alongside KSAN's Jaydon Hart. Also joining the show, our special guest, our very special guest today, Irion County head coach, Don Coffell. Coach, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for making the drive from Mertzen down here. It's great having you on.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So not a lot of action for our Concho Valley teams this week. 10 total matchups. 3 11-man games, 7 6-man games. One of those games being Irion County versus Blackwell, which you were at, Jaydon. Coach, your team picking up the win 78-52 over a tough Blackwell team. They kept it close for you guys. You guys eventually pulled away. What was just kind of working for y'all?
Well, offensively, we kind of stalled out early a little bit and, made some good adjustments. And it was great to have that adversity. In that, especially offensively, because we have been kind of operating on all cylinders so far, and Blackwell sure enough come out and hit us in the mouth a little bit and got our attention early and helped us to refocus. The run game was there, running up the middle on them helped us out a little bit. Trevin was throwing the ball well. Receivers were running great routes, and I just think offensively we finally hit our stride, and running our spread formation was real good for us, and T formation up the middle really with our offensive line, man. Parker Connor, Jaden Taylor, and Bo Morrow just doing a heck of a job on the line in the tight formation. So,
we talked about it on Wednesday when we came out to practice, and then last night following the game we talked a little bit about it, but. Did you feel like this was that actual measuring stick? As I have a fly on my face, and I'm trying to get it away from me.
I saw it.
No, I'm trying. Y'all saw me kind of like swat. I feel like the space in the background.
I'm honestly impressed that you didn't blink when it landed right between your eyes.
I'm a pro, man. I'm a vet. Anyway, though, Coach, but the measuring stick, like actually playing a team like Blackwell. Did you feel like that was a good test before district starts next week?
Oh, man, so invited. We were so ready for that, and it was so needed. We hadn't played but a few minutes into the third quarter a couple times. We needed that four-quarter football game. We needed that crisp offense that Lowry puts out there with great athletes and that execution that Blackwell always brings for us to get that test that we need defensively. And I thought the guys really stepped up and reacted and responded to that. And you walk into a game like that thinking this is going to be a challenge, and then sure enough it is, and you're trailing and you're thinking these guys aren't going to go away. But same thing offensively. We hadn't faced that type of adversity offensively or defensively, and it is super great to have that happen last night, especially right before district, to go, hey, it's time to mash the pedal a little bit.
You mentioned the test defensively. You mentioned the adversity you guys face on offense and defense, and Jaydon put it perfectly, especially with this being the game before district starts in the all Concho Valley district, which is so fun for us media people to cover. But what would you say would be some of the key takeaways from this win over Blackwell?
Mental toughness. Again, first half we were struggling, maybe barking at each other a little bit, and we realized, hey, second half, come out after the locker room. Great leadership in the locker room, great talk, in the locker room at halftime, and we walk out and pretty much tend to business and lean on each other a little bit more. So I'm telling you that we've talked about that for the last few weeks, how we got to get our mental toughness in line, or it's going to hurt us late. And I think we are literally taking steps every week to improve in that area of our game, and that's going to be huge. And to stay together as a team and lean on each other, and not, hey, nobody in that locker room has any desire to lose and hates losing even one little battle. But we got to understand, one little battle on the field isn't the war. I mean, we got to keep working together and realize, hey, we're going to be all right. If we make a mistake, that's what it is. Football's not a perfect game. You've got to work through the mistakes, and especially in 6-man, you got to work through the mistakes, because if you have one guy misses assignment, a lot of times against good teams like Blackwell and who we're going to face in the future, it's going to hurt you bad.
What would you? I mean, from what I got to stay for the first half last night, I mentioned to you that I thought defensively you guys just like gang tackling. Everyone's getting like flying to the football on defense, and then on offense, like you said, the offensive line. There was, I think, y'all's second touchdown. They opened up that huge hole for Ossiel, and he's busting one. I mean, it was a 60+ yard run or around something like that. Yes. But I guess my question to you is, you look at the offense and the defense. If you had to pick one, and I know that's a hard thing to do as a coach, what would you say y'all's strong suit is?
Gosh, I guess I would say right now offensively, with the defense creeping up on us. And, I'm serious. I mean, we put in a new defense a few weeks ago, and we've been trying to fine tune that, and it is getting better and better and better. It is hard to compare the offense or defense, because like you said, that defense flies to the ball. We've watched a couple weeks of film where, hey, they broke a big play, and that's going to happen in 6-man, and that's stuff we have a hard time dealing with sometimes mentally, thinking that it's great, but in the screen, when it screens down, 30, 40 yards downfield because somebody busted a big play on us, guess how many Hornets are in the picture? 6. They're flying to the ball, and that's what they have really bought into, and that's the effort that you're going to get every Friday night out of them, and that's why that defense is coming on. I think going to make a big difference.
And that's huge, because when you get down further into district, and then ultimately, fingers crossed, I feel like you guys are a playoff team. Y'all are clearly a good football team. So. That's when you finally you might see like that team that has like one or two really just good athletes. Yes. But man, if everyone's getting in on that, then you don't really have to worry about that problem.
That's right.
Says a lot about this now 6-0 Irion County Hornet team, one of 2 undefeated teams in the Concho Valley, the other being number 2 Sterling City. What comes to mind when I say that, 6-0?
Oh, man. Excitement. Just pure joy and hard work paying off. I'm not saying for me or the coaching staff, for these kids, man, because they put in the time, and it's not easy, and it's I don't know, maybe I'm a homer a little bit, but it's a little bit harder on these 6-man kids too, because they do everything. We got kids that are running cross country, and playing football. We got kids that are playing in the band and playing football. And we got kids that are running cross country, playing in the band, and playing football. So, some of these kids get up in the mornings, and their cross country practices at 6:30. Some of their days are 6:30 in the morning cross country, football practice right after school, band practice at 6 or 6:30 at night.
And it's honestly amazing what these 6-man athletes do. You mentioned multi-sport athletes. Not only are they competing on an athletic field, but they're also competing in the classroom. They're maintaining academics. You're actually our first 6-man coach to come on Locker Room Rewind. So you have that award, and go ahead and put that around your neck. Congratulations, Coach. First 6-man coach on Locker Room Rewind. Just kind of tell us, because we really haven't had this perspective yet. It just kind of tell us, and you've been around the 6-man game for an extremely long time. What makes the game of 6-man just so special and different from 11-man?
6-man football, we've talked about it a few times. There's a fine line between 6-man and 11-man. The six-man mentality is a little bit different. The six-man athlete is a little bit different. You know, I come in to this program, they were 11-man, and you have linemen, but in six-man, everybody's eligible. So you got to work every position as a skills position now, you know, in the change there. But the six-man mentality is awesome, and it's a family. And I know all football teams are family, and we all coaches preach that. But I just believe in the six-man world, it is a little bit tighter knit, a little bit closer. Kids are, like I said, they're doing everything, and you know, and all the band director, the cross country coach, the football coach, they're all working together, you know. And all of us wear so many hats, and these kids work so hard at everything they do, and to be able to do all those things and keep them academics where they need to be, you know, is pretty special. So.
It is special to watch, and especially for us to cover six-man football, so high-paced, so action-packed.
It's becoming one of my – I mean, it's hard for me to stay away. I feel like I've gone and shot more six-man games.
You know, and the difference, one of the things, six-man football, a lot of times I call it basketball on grass. You know,
you said that to me the first time. One of the first times I met you, you told me that, and I, you know, I'd seen six-man football in very small dosage, and I've kind of fallen in love with it in a lot of ways. I love going out and watching you guys, and you know, you mentioned Sterling City, like that. It's a really fun game, like because there is so much scoring. But on top of that, you know, like I did mention the defensive side of it. It's not like it's just an all offensive game. Like you have to have a good defense, and having a good defense does you so many wonders. I mean, it's crazy.
Defense still wins championships.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, even in six-man. Yeah.
It's just like basketball, a game of runs.
Yes, absolutely. You got that right.
Yeah. So you guys open District 14 1A Division I play next week at home against Water Valley, who's coming off a big 70-32 win over Highland. The Wildcats holding Highland to just 6 points in the second half. For the six-man game, I think that's a pretty good accomplishment. We were just kind of talking about that, especially for a Highland team that's averaging 61 points per game. Yeah. Held them to just 32. So one of the big impact players for Water Valley was Cannon Wise. 30 rushes, 292 yards, 4 touchdowns. Coach, this is a team that couldn't play until week 4 due to COVID-19 related issues. They come back and they face 3 straight top 25 teams. Number 1, Westbrook. They faced third-ranked Borden County at the time, and now Highland. They sit at 1-2 on the year. What do you kind of make of these Water Valley Wildcats?
Well, first of all, who do you think we're going to key Friday night? I mean, you got to give that. Yeah, you got to give that kid some credit. I mean, you rushed for almost 300 yards. That's impressive. It doesn't matter who it's against. Number 2, it's against Highland. That's a high-quality six-man football team and a historic program. So Water Valley walked in, and obviously their tough schedule since they were able to start really paid off for them. And Coach Hayes has got them guys ready for district at prime time. You know, you can look at that as a negative that he didn't get to play weeks 1, 2, and 3, or you can look at it as a positive and move forward. And I think he's obviously looked at it as a positive, kept his kids healthy. They're coming in, and it'll be their 4 or 5. It'll be their 4th game, you know, and it's our 7th. So maybe they're not banged up as much. Maybe that helps them. But man, this Water Valley team, obviously, and I've already spent a lot of time on film already since last night, and they look tough. They look good defensively, physical. They come out in the second half and were very physical against Highland and just kind of manhandled them. Looked like to me, and like I said, quality team. Highland's got a running back over there that he's hard to bottle up. And Water Valley did it, obviously, only giving up 6 points in the second half. So I'm looking forward to that challenge, and it makes this challenge this week against Blackwell all the more important for us.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're a top 25. I mean, if you go off of sixmanfootball.com, I think they're a top 25 team.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, I mean, it wasn't like, you know, this was just a whatever win for Water Valley. So, I mean, that's a candidate for maybe a game of the week right there.
Absolutely. Water Valley at Irion County, 7:30 p.m. should be an exciting one. Coach will let you get on your way. Thanks again for coming on and making the drive out here. I know that that's a commitment in itself, but we really do appreciate it, and it's always great talking to you.
Guys, I appreciate all you do. Thank you for having me out.
Absolutely.
Take care.
You take care, Coach. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break. We'll break down some other games around the Concho Valley for Week 6/Week 1 for classes 5A through 6A. Before we go and come back, we'll hear from our local sponsor. Welcome back to Locker Room Rewind, brought to you by Chunky Nelms Insurance. The camera is now closer to us, as you can see from our webcast audience. So, Jaydon, like I mentioned at the top of the program, not a lot of games going on. However, Central, they had their second game of the season. They went on the road 3.5 hours. It's something that Central is used to coming out of the Metroplex District, those really long road trips. But they lose to Schertz Clements 35-0. And I know we sit up here a lot and we say, oh, the scoreboard doesn't really reflect the whole story of the game. I think it does.
No, you were there. I mean, you were there. I listened to most of it. 100%. And I think if you ask Coach Davis, he's going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So
35-0 Central. I mean, they went on that 3.5 hour road trip. They stepped off the bus, and I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm a straight shooter with these things. They got punched in the mouth. They really did. The Bobcats, they were outgained 473 yards to 234. And one of the people that they couldn't stop, if you're watching the webcast, you're about to see him right here, is number 2, Max Didomenico, 349 total yards. He's shifty, 221 through the air. He can throw on the run. He's very aware and adept in the pocket. He knows when it's collapsing. He knows what it's doing. He also had a couple passing and rushing touchdowns, as you guys are watching on these highlights. They couldn't slow him down, and to be honest, if they could just slow him down a little bit, then I think it would have disrupted a whole lot of things. It would have slowed down momentum, and Central maybe could have strung a couple of good possessions together and maybe been in this thing. But Max Didomenico was just a force to be reckoned with, along with Anthony Edwards and Amari Williams, all those guys. But Central, they fall to 0-2, and they have a tough road ahead of them.
Yeah, one, let's look at what Clements, they played Austin Westlake, the defending state champion and the 4th-ranked team in the state. And, of course, you lose 53. Well, I think it's 53-7. Like, okay, yeah, I mean, you're going to more than likely lose that football game most times. And I think just my takeaway is I think Clemens is a better football team than Colleen Shoemaker was. You know, from what I understand, you know, they weren't able to stop Clemens once in the first half.
They had four possessions in the first half, all going for touchdowns. One was two of them were 14-play drives. Another was a 10-play drive, and the other was a 5-play drive. The only time they didn't score when they had the ball in the first half was with 6 seconds left, and that's when they attempted a 50-yard field goal that Jaydon, I am not kidding, missed by this much. It was really impressive to kind of watch, and I shot the highlight all the way through, and it was coming to the goalpost, and I was like, this thing is going to make it.
Goodness.
Fell just short, hit the crossbar. But 4 possessions, I'm not counting that last one for Clemens, obviously. They took it over with 6 seconds left. But 4 possessions, 4 touchdowns. They were up 28-0 at the half. Central, they didn't complete a pass in the second quarter. You can't really score points you can't pass the ball. They were shutting down the run, obviously. I think Malachi Brown, Central's quarterback, eclipsed the 100-yard mark with I think it was just under 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the offense didn't look that from listening. My ears told me that the offense didn't look good. And you know, obviously that's something that the reason you play teams like Schertz Clemens is so that you can figure these kind of things out before you get into district, especially being in the Little Southwest Conference. Because let's be realistic at this point. With the way that 6A is set up, these Houston, these Dallas, these San Antonio Converse Judson actually got shut out by DeSoto last night. That surprised me too. But you know, these big schools, Duncanville, North Shore, it's hard to compete against them in the playoffs. So it matters so much more when you're playing in a Little Southwest Conference with your traditional rivals that date back to the 50s. And, you know, that's what matters. It's a pride thing. It's beating Midland Lee. It's beating Odessa Permian. It's beating Midland High. You know, all of the all the others. That's seriously what it is, and that's what Coach Davis will tell you. It's not like Coach Davis is sitting here and saying, oh, we expect to go 3-0 and beat all of these teams and beat up on them. He scheduled these games for a reason. He scheduled these games to prepare them for what they will see in district. And if I'm going off of what I've seen, because it's really easy to get on the bandwagon of, oh, well, Central's not going to be good this year. Look at who they've played. Two teams that I think will they'll get out of the first round of the playoffs. I think. I mean, they're going to easily get out of the first round of the playoffs, maybe even win their district. And that's something in the districts that Colleen's in and a district that Clemens is in. Because Clemens is in there with Judson.
Yep. And Cibola Steel, San Antonio Wagner.
I mean, these aren't just like easy teams.
I mean, even look at their game next week against 5th-ranked A&M Consolidated,
and that's going to be that might be even harder. I don't know. That's going to be a really again. Coach Davis scheduled these. I keep saying it for a reason, and it's to get these guys prepared for district. And if I'm looking at where they're at from a gauge, and this is might be a far stretch, they scrimmage Abilene Cooper, and it's a scrimmage. I get that, but Cooper competed with Permian in week 1. So Permian won, but let's kind of look at that. Cooper was hardly able to do much defensively against Central in the scrimmage. Offensively, Central moved the ball pretty well against that Cooper defense. Yep. Cooper beat Abilene High last night by 10 points in the Crosstown Showdown in Abilene. So I'm kind of using Cooper as the common denominator right now, and by doing that, I feel like you look at Midland Lee and no common denominator with them, but they beat Amarillo Tascosa, who was clearly a good football team last year and a good football team this year.
It was a good game as well.
Midland Lee is the favorite to win that district for a reason, but I think if you look at where Central is, where Permian is at, where Friendship is at, you know, it's kind of hard to gauge Friendship still. They beat Burleson last night 49-42. Central's going to be right in the mix of this thing, and not right in the mix to just barely make it into the playoffs. I think there's about 4 or 5 teams that you could actually say, hey, okay, they're going to – there's a chance they make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And so really Abilene High is coming back into district with teams that they're familiar with, and not having to play the Metroplex schedule like Central is going to benefit them a ton. The word on the high school football street is that they've gotten better too, despite that loss to Cooper last night. But yeah, Central's going to be right in the mix of this thing. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of things that they need to figure it out. And I know, I hate to sit up here and say, oh, Coach Davis this, Coach Davis this, but I mean, if you ask Coach Davis, I feel like he's probably going to say the exact same thing, that they've got plenty of things to work on, and they'll get it taken care of. They'll be okay.
I mean, especially being 3 games into the non-district season. I mean, 3 games into the season and it being non-district. Obviously, there's things that need to be worked on, especially when you sit at 0-2. But I think he pretty much summed it up pretty well. I mean, these first 3 games for Central, Shoemaker last night against Clemens, and then next Friday against A&M Consolidate, they will teach you the things you need to learn and fix and correct before you enter that historic little Southwest Conference ring and bout it out between those historic rivals. But now, I don't want to sit up here and just bash Central. Obviously, in the moment, the loss hurts, 35-0. The performance you display on the road, Central had a lot of fans come out too. Obviously, it hurts in the moment, but now there's really nothing you can do. You keep your head up. You try and learn from your coaches, be coachable, watch film, study up, and you correct your mistakes, and you try and get better, and you do it all again against Consolidate next week.
And they'll be okay.
So, they're going to be okay. No panic button for Central here. Moving on, over in El Paso, how about the Lakeview Chiefs? They beat Fabens 49-20 on the road. They improved to 4-2 for the first time since
2014.
Can't stop me. How about the Chiefs? They forced 5 turnovers and led 28-0 at the half. They forced 3 straight turnovers in the first quarter. Yeah. That turned into points. Fabens, I mean, they just came out sloppy in their first game of the season. And for those wondering, Fabens, they had COVID-19 restrictions in their county, which is why it took them so long to start their season. Finally able to start it last night. Lakeview picking up the win 49-20. Just dominance from the Chiefs. 21 second half points, Jaydon.
So Lakeview looks now. Let me not do the opposite of what I did with Central, and just because Lakeview's coming off a win. Look, Fabens really probably. I mean, let's be real. They're not a great football team, but let's give credit to Lakeview. I mean, 4 games if you're winning 4 games for the first time since 2014. Credit to Coach Guevara, credit to all of those players, and talking to Coach Guevara last night, he's saying that these kids are working their tails off. They're getting up early. They're staying in the weight room. The coaches are staying late and watching film. He's built a good culture over at Lakeview. And this, on top of their non-district schedule, the team that really drummed them, Sweetwater, is a really good football team. Really good football team. And so that's about it. Snyder, I still feel like Lakeview probably could have won that game. It was just a matter of scoring points. But as far as last night goes, that was a dominant performance, hands down, from the Chiefs. I mean, the defense needed a game like that where, they forced a lot of turnovers against Brownfield last week, but they still allowed Brownfield to score, 40 points on them. They needed a game where they kept someone under 30, and they did a good job. They really did. And the offense just continued to do what it does best.
Jaydon, that's 13 turnovers that the Chiefs have forced in the past 2 games.
Yeah. You gotta give credit where credit's due. Absolutely. With that defense. The defense, they started out with that stretch of letting people run through them because, I can't remember what it was total yardage wise, but I know it's I kept saying 300 rushing yards this for the 3rd consecutive game, and that's something obviously that had to be cleaned up, and they have faced passing teams, but I wouldn't say Fabens was a passing team. Their best player was a running back.
Guevara even told us on Tuesday that they're a run it down your throat type of team.
Yeah,
which is good that Lakeview was able to see another team like that before, facing Hereford and then eventually going on their bye and then going into district.
So the bye got moved up. The
up.
bye's done. It's going towards the back end. They're starting district right after Hereford.
Good. That's exciting for us.
I mean, so schedule change. Lakeview's going to get right into it. We've got there's a lot of teams or districts doing that just because you got to have that ability to make up a game. And while it's nice to have that bye in there, well, it might end up working out in Lakeview's favor, because if you go up to Hereford next week and get a win, then you're going right into a game against Fort Stockton that I look at. Basically, that district is Andrews as the stand. Like, it's kind of like the Central. It's the Little Southwest Conference. I think Andrews is kind of a standalone favorite right now, but I think Big Spring, Fort Stockton will provide challenges for Lakeview, but Lakeview can win both of those games. I to be honest, I would not be shocked if Lakeview's finishing second, and if they get to that point, I mean, what's to say that Lakeview can't win a district championship?
It could be an 8-9 win season for Lakeview.
Like
in the
this
regular
really
season alone, with maybe a couple playoff wins under their belt.
No, I mean, and let's not get carried away and everything, but I'm just trying to be realistic, looking at what we've got going for the rest of the season with the Chiefs. And, Albert Rodriguez, he won your KLST Player of the Week, and he deserved it. He should have been up for Mr. Texas Football.
Yep, he got snubbed.
He did get snubbed. But, credit to him, man. Credit to what he's doing for that offense, and credit to Tristan Franklin, Austin Bandy, Brandon Herrera. Credit to his offensive line,
the guys up front
that are blocking for him and giving him time to hit his receivers. I mean, these guys, this offense is impressive, and I really felt look, this Lakeview Chiefs defense that played the last 2 weeks. Maybe let's get them against Sweetwater again, and things might have been a little bit different, because they still kept fighting in that Sweetwater game. So Lakeview's looking really good. This might be, they obviously make the playoffs no matter what in a 4-team district, but Lakeview's really looking good, and I'm excited to see next week, and then that's when it counts, is when district gets started the week after that.
And I know I was up here last Saturday, and I was talking about the transformation of Lakeview and just how great it's been seeing all those guys just not only get bigger and faster and stronger, and they're getting smarter out there as well. They're knowing their assignments, and with this Lakeview win over Fabens, the defense needed a game like this. And I know I said, hey, let's see them force these turnovers and hold them under 40 points next time, and they actually did that. So kudos to you, Lakeview Chiefs. To the Lakeview defense, they kept Fabens out of the end zone until the 8:27 mark in the third quarter. So that is good for them. As we mentioned, Lakeview facing another long road trip next week, 295 miles to Hereford. We'll preview that one on our Wednesday preview podcast. Make sure you tune into that. And if you're not subscribed to the Locker Room Rewind podcast feed, hit that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all that jazz. All that jazz. You don't like my sayings?
I just love. I say that too all the time. I can't talk.
All that jazz, and you can get notified whenever we post an episode like that. So you have that to look forward to. The Chiefs, as Jaydon mentioned, and threw that out there, teaching me some things. After that Hereford game, they'll kick off district play against Fort Stockton. So it should be a really, really good one. Lakeview at Hereford, Whiteface Stadium, 7 p.m.
Cattle. That's why it's called that.
Should be a good game. So I guess, what are we? We're at coming up at 2:30ish. We'll go ahead and just round it out with some other scores. Jaydon, feel free to go on tangents and spit out whatever you want as I read these off. Mason, they pick up the district win against Centerpoint, their second straight win, 48-7. Sterling City blanking Eden, 48-0. It's Eden's fifth straight loss. Hermley over Bront, 55-6. Mullen over Very Best, 60-40. As we mentioned with Coach Coffell earlier, Water Valley over Highland, 70-32, and what was probably my biggest surprise.
That's the surprise of the week.
And then Grady over Robert Lee, 56-14. Is that Paint Rock game still going on today?
Yeah, at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. We'll see.
Midland TLCA in Garden City.
We'll see if the Indians can pull that one out. I guess just to kind of close it out, or just some of your thoughts on this week to kind of wrap it up.
I mean, I feel like it was like you said to start the show. It was a slow week, but I mean, it's also a telling week for some teams. Telling week for Irion County because, one, they get that big win over Blackwell. And I say big win because, as Coach Coffell said, a measuring stick that you need before you head into district. They really hadn't played just the toughest of opponents, and that's not because he didn't try to schedule games that were hard. I mean, had Bront cancel on him. He tried to play Cherokee, who is 3-1. He tried to play He played Grand Falls Royalty, who traditionally is a good 6-man program. They were ranked 9th when he scheduled them, and they're just new coach, transition year kind of deal. So, good on. I thought that was a big win for Irion County. I also feel like Blackwell 3-3, don't count them out of anything yet. Like, I mean, they're not the same Blackwell team that they might have been last season, but I still feel like they're going to make a run in playoffs. Like, this isn't. They're not going to be a one and done. They'll probably still win their district championship in a very easy district other than Lorain. So keep Blackwell. Just don't overreact with Blackwell, I guess is what I'm trying to say. With Water Valley, that was definitely the most impressive win of the week by any team here in the Concho Valley, and sets up a really good game next week with Irion County and them because, winner there, you get a leg up in a district that looks like a 3-team race, and maybe Water Valley becomes the team now that you start saying, okay, do we need to view them as a team above Eden? Eden's banged up with injuries. I'm assuming that they're going to get those guys back at some point, but when does this become an issue? I mean, I know they scheduled hard teams, but when does this become an issue? Because some of them also, you can make the argument, Garden City, okay, maybe, they're an okay team. Like, they're not just the same Garden City. Morgan, they battled injuries in that game, but not necessarily a great football team. Sterling City is good. Sterling City, undefeated still. So, yeah, I mean, in the 6-man landscape, we learned some things this week.
Sterling City taking on Bront to open district play next week, 7:30 p.m. Stevenson Stadium. We'll have a lot to talk about actually on Wednesday's show, unlike this past week. A lot of games, a lot of district openers. I know District 3 3A Division 1, 2 3A Division 2, 14 2A Division 1, and 14 2A Division 2.
Yep.
And then as well as some of our 6-man.
And all the 6-man. I mean, it's time.
It's time. That's perfectly put. It's time. So make sure you tune in to those Wednesday preview episodes. We'll try and break it down as factual as we can, as well as give you some of our insight and opinions on some things. Hit the subscribe button, Locker Room Rewind, Apple Podcast, and Stitcher. You can get the notifications when those go up. And that pretty much does it here from the digital studio here at Sunset Mall. Thank you for tuning in to Locker Room Rewind. That is our Week 6/Week 2 recap. Thank you, Chunky Gnomes, for the awesome sponsorship. Make sure you check him out. If we can go ahead and throw up that billboard one more time for our webcast viewers. Chunky Gnomes Insurance, 325-223-0314, www.chunkygnomes.com. Get insured today. This has been Locker Room Rewind. See everyone Wednesday.